And then you can actually get your email lecture. See it?
Oh, loads of them. Well, there's George Siegel. And let's see. Well,
you got to find it.
Well, he wasn't doing hard. He was a surgeon. And Colin Clover. And then there's no one about February.
We're on the second sheet.
And he went from Rochester to Archie. I don't know. I remember now. You know, I retired 25 years ago. The people I know.
It's okay. Yeah. So I'm getting it in the room. Yeah. Okay, perfect. We're just going to play in my parent here.
Everyone should try it. Well, I'll say I'll trust you.
Because that's what you're
Yes, exactly.
Summarize
So I've got all those documents. I've done all the technology.
I don't want to make us.
But that's a real precious stuff.
Same guy who pays for everything.
I don't know how German is about that. I think it's typical German fashion is probably possible.
Like, I'll be interested in it. And then she's we had dinner. They're going to feel really bad.
going to get started in a minute. Just want to make sure everybody signed in on the sign-in sheet. You're good? Okay. Hi, I'm going to get started. I'm Robin Finnerty. I'm with Comita. I'm going to read a script about the project, and then we will open it up for public comments. If you did put an X, we'll call on you, and then at the end, if you want to, you still have a comment kind of after hearing everything, then just raise your hand and we'll call on you from there. We do live stream this, and this will live on our website at monroecountybusiness.org. Okay. You can come to the podium and speak, or just stand.
No, they have to come.
You do have to come to the podium and speak. Sorry. Okay. Welcome. This public hearing is now open. It's 4 p.m. I am Robin Finnerty from the County of Monroe Industrial Development Agency, and I have been designated by the agency to be the hearing officer to conduct this public hearing. We are here to hold the public hearing on the 2851 Clover LLC project. The transcript of this hearing will be reviewed and considered by the agency in determination of this project. Notice of this hearing appeared in the Democrat and Chronicle on Friday, November 29th, 2024. 2851 Clover LLC has requested that the agency assist with a certain project consisting of the acquisition of a leasehold interest in a portion of an approximately 5.33 acre parcel of land located at 2151 Clover Street in the town of Pittsford, New York, the demolition of the existing building located thereon, and the construction in its place of an apartment living community to be known as Pittsford Oaks, consisting of approximately 175 units made up of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments. This project is subject to Comita's housing policy, which requires that 20% of the total units be set aside as affordable as defined therein. The proposed financial assistance contemplated by the agency includes New York State and local sales and use tax exemption benefits, partial mortgage recording tax exemption benefits, and a partial real property tax abatement. All those in attendance are required to register by signing the sign-in sheet. You will not be permitted to speak unless you've registered. If you have a written comment to submit for the record, you may do so. Written comments may also be delivered to the agency at 50 West Main Street, Rochester, New York, 14614. Please note, the purpose of this hearing is for the agency to hear all persons with views in favor of or opposed to either the location or nature of the facility or the proposed financial assistance being contemplated by the agency. Therefore, the representatives of the agency will not be responding to comments, but will answer clarifying questions about the project and or the financial assistance. If anyone is interested in making a comment, please raise your hand, state your name and address. If you're representing a company, please identify the company. I request that speakers keep comments to 3 minutes. I think first I'll start on the list of people that did sign up to speak, and we'll start with Ed Doherty.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Ed Doherty. I live at 70 Toby Court in Pittsford. Thank you for the opportunity to address this hearing. Since I live very near to the project, I've monitored it quite closely. I've attended all of the public information meetings. I've attended the public hearings, attended a good number of the town board and planning board deliberations. So being fairly well informed about the project, I was somewhat astounded to learn just this Friday that the project has been modified to include an affordable housing component. It's interesting, the developer has consistently represented this project as being fully market rate housing. That has been made abundantly clear at every public session. That was the predicated information upon which the town board modified the zoning. The information that was presented as to what the public hearings were about. And yet this change has come about at the last minute. I personally am not opposed to affordable housing in the town of Pittsford. I don't know whether or not affordable housing could have been reasonably incorporated into this project. It's possible. But at this point, at this late date, I still have really no information about what the affordable housing component would be. So significant was the developer's emphasis on market rate housing that at one particular meeting that was attended by about 45 or 50 members of the public, the representatives of the developer stressed that this was being presented as a desirable alternative, that affordable housing could possibly be a threat. In fact, it went so far as to ask for a show of hands from those there who would oppose this project if it wasn't market rate housing. So there was clearly no intent presented at any point during the process to do this. And so while I'm, on the one hand, not necessarily wanting to oppose the idea of public housing or affordable housing being incorporated, it is clear to me that this is a bait and switch approach that really undercuts the process in a very, very significant way. And I think it presents a legal cloud over the project because, as I said earlier, all of the information provided up until this point has been different. For those who do support the idea of affordable housing in Pittsford, I would only say that to really advance that useful goal of affordable housing in suburban areas, we will need well-planned projects, transparently developed, ones that the public can understand, and this is just the opposite. And quite frankly, I think that this proposal, if it were to be approved, would set back the process of affordable housing quite a bit. So I hope that the board will consider this. I know that some of the issues that I have mentioned are not Comida issues, they may be town issues, but I don't know how Comida could proceed to approve this with the kind of uncertainty as to whether or not the town has approved it. I hope to get some information as we go along, particularly when will Comida actually address this? Is there a vote scheduled at some point in time? Will the town have an opportunity to formally register its comments before that happens? What is the proposal? I know that there's a 20% set aside, and I know that that 20% set aside therefore provides for tax breaks, but do the actual subsidies for the housing units come from a separate entity? The individuals have to qualify through HUD? It's kind of unclear. I see a lot of heads nodding. Those of you who live with this day in and day out probably understand a lot of this, but it is not at all clear to someone who has been trying to keep up on this project. So thank you very much. I hope Comida will not take any action until the town has had an opportunity to fully review this. Thank you.
Oh, these are glasses.
Oh, thank you. I live in everywhere.
So in light of the first comments, we just want to make a clarifying point that the set-aside is a requirement of the IDA. It is not something that the developers have instituted and added this to the project despite prior representations. The board, the IDA board, has the discretion to waive the set-aside, to reduce the set-aside, to change it. They have the absolute discretion to do so. And so the point of this public hearing is to solicit comments like the ones we just heard and others, to get feedback from the host community about their reaction to the benefits and to the set-aside. So just because it's on the surface required does not mean it's going to stay as part of the approval. To address the questions raised, the IDA board will consider this project on December 17th at its meeting. There's also a public comment session at that meeting. You do have to sign up in advance to speak, so we can provide information as you're leaving about how to sign up to that meeting. But this is recorded and live streamed and will be provided to our board, so they will hear all of these comments. You don't need to come speak at both.
Okay, I'm gonna just keep going down the list for now. Denise?
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. My name is Denise Hubler, and I am the Vice President of Marketing and Development for Friendly Senior Living. For those of you that don't know about Friendly Senior Living, we're a continuum of caring services for the elderly in the Pittsford and Brighton area. We are comprised of Cloverwood and Glenmere, which is adjacent to the property, along with the Friendly Home and Linden Knoll, which is 148 apartments of affordable housing. So we clearly understand the project very well. And I'm here just for the record to say that we do oppose the below market housing as part of the project. And we just wanted to make sure we got that as part of the record. Thank you.
Hi everyone, excuse me, my name is Kim Taylor. I live at 6 Gray Fawn here in Pittsford. Earlier this year, and I am on the Pittsford Town Board also. Earlier this year, the developers of Pittsford Oaks came to our town board to request to amend our PUD, which is our planned unit development, to allow for market rate apartments. This request to build market rate apartments was approved after the developers represented at meeting after meeting to our board, to our residents, that they were developing luxury market rate apartments with no below market or low income government subsidized apartments. They represented that there'd be a variety of rents to these apartments, but that would be offered based on the size and the location of the apartment. I would not have voted to approve the amendment to our PUD had the developers presented the plan that is in front of you with the 20% set-asides. If approved with a set-aside of below market rate apartments, that would be a direct violation of what is approved to be built at this location and would violate our town zoning. Apartments at this location are strictly limited to market rate apartments, so approval of this Comida application with a 20% set-aside would not only violate our zoning, but it would also violate the PUD, which is part of the zoning. Honestly, if approved with the set-asides, it's opening up potential litigation for our town, which is unfair to our residents. This is not a debate about below market apartments or an opinion on it, but it is about a misrepresentation of developers who had an application and now put an application into Comida, which would be a direct violation of what was approved by our town board. If below market rate apartments with tax breaks and incentives were part of the developer's plan, then it should have been presented publicly before we amended our PUD, and so our residents could have been heard, we could have talked about it, the idea could have been vetted and voted on. This deception has eroded the confidence in our community and of our residents, and I've heard from many of those residents, and they feel deceived. I'm here speaking on behalf of those residents and the many other residents who have spoken at the meetings regarding this project, and they've reached out to me, and I know they've reached out to others, and our residents have consistently and overwhelmingly rejected the idea of government mandated below market rate housing in our town comprehensive plan, in our community survey, in our town zoning. Our residents deserve to choose the type of housing they want in their town. The developers of Pittsford Oaks have made representations to both our residents and the town board, and they should have to honor those representations. My understanding is that Comida's mission is to assist development in our county by giving tax breaks and other things such as incentives to spur economic growth. And the application for Pittsford Oaks, will be an extremely lucrative project without tax breaks and incentives. This is in a desirable location. Apartments are needed in our town to diversify the housing stock. And I'm confident those apartments will be built without the need for tax incentives, tax breaks, at the expense of our town residents. Our town tax rate stays the same, but if granted, the developers will pay less taxes. That is unfair to our residents. That is, in my mind, an example of the rich getting richer on the back of taxpayers. I'm asking this board to waive the 20% set-asides or reject this application. Thank you, I appreciate your time.
Catherine Doyle.
My name is Catherine Doyle. I live at 6 Round Trail Drive, and this is a sign of the second coming because I agree with everyone. And those of you who have heard me speak at public meetings before know that that doesn't often happen. I have been following this project, although not as intently as you have since I don't live down the road for a long time. And the Daniele Corporation's mantra has always been, we're building market rate apartments. You don't have to be scared about the poor people moving into Pittsford. And as a person who is really in favor of affordable apartments for, like I said on page 3, people like firefighters and teachers and people who are being priced out of the market here in Rochester at last, I think that's a great idea. It's not a great idea at the last moment. It's not a great idea to deceive everyone in this town about it. And I do believe, and Supervisor Smith, you put it up there on one of your Facebook posts this morning, that they put this application in so that Comida could waive the affordable housing provision and give them a tax break anyway. I agree with Councilwoman Taylor that Daniele Corporation isn't going to go bankrupt if they don't get the Comida exceptions. We need to stop taking money out of middle-class pockets and putting it into the rich people's pockets. The Daniele Corporation wants to build luxury Pittsford apartments. Let them do it with their own money. Thank you, and let's have some affordable housing in Pittsford that's transparent.
Robert? Frame. What? You're gonna frame?
Out of the sake of non-sale.
Okay. That's all who asked to speak. If there's anyone else, come on up.
Sorry, I thought by signing up that entitled.
Oh, no, sorry.
Oh, my name is Bill Smith. I live at 52 Washington Road, and I represent the people of Pittsford because I'm the town supervisor. So my first question is, are the requested tax breaks really necessary? Now, recently we've seen other successful apartment complexes built in this immediate area without them. I'm thinking of Kilburn Place on East Avenue and Dunwood Green, which is right up the road from the proposed site of Pittsford Oaks. So tax breaks shouldn't be necessary for this. And as you can imagine, as an elected officer of the town, my duty to our residents is to avoid foregoing revenue to the town and to our school district. So just to put this into context, assuming 100% tax abatement, our tax assessor estimates the lost revenue annually would be $25,000 to the town and nearly $250,000 a year to our school district. And $25,000 is a big deal for a budget as small as the town's. It would add, in order to make it up, it would add another penny to the tax rate, just to put that into context. Secondly, I want the Comida board to be well aware that of the unavoidable outcome if this Comida application is approved as is, and by as is I mean with the below market rate unit set aside. It means that the Pittsford Oaks application before the town planning board dies because it then violates the applicable zoning, and the developers in effect will have killed their own project, which I can't imagine was their intention. Now, the site is in what's called a planned unit development. That is specialized zoning for a relatively small and compact area. And the town board amended the provisions of that planned unit development, the PUD, earlier this year to allow the Pittsford Oaks application to go forward in the form in which it has been presented consistently by the developers from the earliest consideration of any amendment of the PUD through every one of the developers' submissions to the planning board as a market rate housing project. The amended PUD limits projects within it strictly to market rate housing. And I'll add that if Comida approves this application with a waiver of the below market set aside requirement, the town will need a reliable and legally enforceable undertaking from Comida that waiver is irrevocable. Now, time's limited, so I won't go into detail about how the below market rate set aside is completely inconsistent with the town's comprehensive plan, completely inconsistent with the overwhelming sentiment of our residents expressed in the community survey that underpins our comprehensive plan. 73% of the residents in the survey would not support government mandated or government subsidized below market rate housing in Pittsford. It's completely inconsistent with our existing zoning code and with all of the work done to date by the town board on the revision of our zoning code based on the new comprehensive plan that's now nearing completion. My only other point is that I would point out, the application before Comida states in part that the project, and I'm quoting here, was designed around the desires of the town of Pittsford to allow for the first affordable workforce housing in Pittsford, and incorporates the wishes of the town board of Pittsford to incorporate affordable housing and similar statements. So as they relate to the set-asides in this application, each of these statements, I'm trying to put it as tactfully as I can, is factually incorrect in its entirety. Of course, market rate apartments represent a housing option more affordable than buying a house. That's something acknowledged and welcomed, at least by me, in our board's public discussions about amending the PUD for this project. But that's a proposition that is altogether different from what's before Comida now. The town board at no point expressed an intention of below market rate units being a part of this project. Its amendments to the PUD and the terms of the PUD as amended contain no such provision, but rather its opposite. The PUD as amended calls for strictly market rate housing, a term that runs throughout our PUD statute. That amended PUD, adopted by unanimous vote of our town board, expresses the entirety of the town board's intentions and expectations regarding the Pittsford Oaks project. How these statements in the application comport with the certification on page 13 of the application that all information provided is true and correct, and that any misrepresentation can result in revocation of Comida benefits, well, that's a question for the Comida board, not for me. Finally, if Comida must approve this tax break, please waive the housing set aside. It can't possibly be the wish of Comida to come into a community and create discord and division. We have a project the town board allowed to go forward because it fulfilled a goal of ours to provide some more affordable housing options, which it does in the form proposed before this application came up. I wanted to go forward as it was given to us for approval. It does no one any good to have a situation where the developer would be pitted against the town or against the planning board with the prospect of litigation and significant delay, perhaps years, for an important project. And I thank you all for listening to my comments.
Anyone else wishing to make a comment? Can I just say ditto? Yes. Okay, my legal name is Patricia Klein. I live at 3 Ayton Hill. Most people who know me as Kelly Klein. I can say that I would like Comida to either reject the proposal or waive the 20%. I agree with everything that's been said here today. For those of you who know me, I worked for the town for many years, 27 years. I worked in the planning department. And I can tell you that working in the planning department, our guiding document for any type of planning was the comprehensive plan. We looked at that to see, did it meet our comprehensive plan? I'm very familiar with the comprehensive plan, and it speaks from our residents, the residents that did not want below market rate development. They gave us that word, they made that perfectly clear. The residents of the community supported that plan. The other reasons too is that, when I think about affordable housing, I'm not hearing the word seniors. Yes, we need senior housing, but this is not saying this is specifically for senior housing.
there's no services available up in that area. Most people, depend on public transportation. You might as well put people on an island up there, because most people who depend on affordable housing also depend on public transportation. There's no stores, there's no pharmacies. The closest big thing we have up there is the YMCA. And I don't see people who are in affordable housing being able to afford the YMCA. Personally, I can't afford the YMCA. The other thing too is about this community is that we do have affordable housing here in this community, but it's life choices to be in that affordable housing in this community. We're perfect examples of it. We couldn't afford, my husband and I couldn't afford to stay in this community. We moved out. We purchased a home outside. We built equity in that house. But it was important for us to come back to this community for our kids to go to the same schools that we went to. We made life choices when it came to that, okay? We drove cars until the idiot lights came on in those cars. We, 5 houses later, have finally been able to move into our age-in-place home. But those were life choices we made. There are many areas in this community off of Marsh Road, our apartment complexes. We certainly could use more apartment complexes so people can make life choices and that they can build, their wealth in order to purchase their first home. Okay. So I just want to say that as a taxpayer, I don't agree with giving this tax break. Like I said, we made life choices, and if you give tax breaks to this, that means our taxes are going to go up, and it's going to be harder and harder for us to stay in this community. Thank you.
Anyone else? Wishing to make a comment? You can wait a minute. I just want to make sure everybody's signed in. I'll keep the sheet over here. We can, 4:27. So if everybody's good, last call, forever hold your peace. 4:27, we'll close the public hearing out.